Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ram 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 Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram 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 Ram. Hare Krishna, 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 Ram Ram. Hare Krishna, Ram 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 Ram. Sit properly. Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Krishna 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Ram Krishna Ram 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 Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna Ram 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 Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Hare Ram 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 Krishna Krishna Ram 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 Hare Ram 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 Krishna Krishna Ram Ram Ram
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Rama Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Sati Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Sati Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Krishna Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna
Hare Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare
Hare Ram Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Krishna Hare Ram Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Hare Ram Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Krishna
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji Sanmata is Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you so much for joining. Let us begin with Mangalacharana prayers. One second. Audible na? Mata is Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, entitled as Creation, Chapter 9, the passing away of Bhishma Deva in the presence of Lord Krishna. So we are at 21st verse. Yeah, please begin, Matais.
1 minute, Prabhuji. My system is still on. Somebody can start.
Yeah. Samyukta Matai, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Being the absolute personality of Godhead, he is present in everyone's heart. He is equally kind to everyone and he is free from the false ego of differentiation. Therefore, whatever he does is free from material inability. He is equally balanced, purport. Because he is absolute, there is nothing different from him. He is Kaivalya, there is nothing except himself. Everything and everyone is the manifestation of his energy, and thus he is present everywhere by his energy, being non-different from it. The sun is identified with every inch of the sun rays and every molecular particle of the rays. Similarly, the Lord is distributed by his different energies. He is Paramatma, or the super soul, present in everyone as the supreme guidance, and therefore he is already the chariot driver and counsel of all living beings. When he therefore exhibits himself as chariot driver of Arjuna, there is no change in his exalted position. It is the power of devotional service only that demonstrates him as the chariot driver or the messenger. Since he has nothing to do with material conception of life because he is absolute spiritual identity. There is for him no superior or inferior action. Being the absolute personality of Godhead, he has no false ego, and so he does not identify himself with anything different from him. The material conception of ego is equibalanced in him. He does not feel, therefore, inferior by becoming the chariot driver of his pure devotee. It is the glory of the pure devotee that only he can bring about service from the affectionate Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Sandhya Matai, please go ahead. Hare Krishna. Deepa Mata, would you be able to read?
Yes, I could read, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yet, despite his being equally kind to everyone, he has graciously come before me while I am ending my life. Is it the same? For I am his unflinching servitor. Purport. The Supreme Lord, the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, although equal to everyone, is still more inclined to his unflinching devotee who is completely surrendered and knows no one else as his protector and master. Having unflinching faith in the Supreme Lord as one's protector, friend, and master is the natural condition of eternal life. A living entity is so made by the will of the Almighty that he is most happy when placing himself in a condition of absolute dependence. The opposite tendency is the cause of fall down. The living entity has his tendency of falling down by dint of misidentifying himself as fully independent to lord it over the material world. The root cause of all troubles is there in false egotism. One must draw towards the Lord in all circumstances. The appearance of Lord Krishna at the deathbed of Bhishma Ji is due to his being an unflinching devotee of the Lord. Arjuna had some bodily relation with Krishna because the Lord happened to be his maternal cousin, but Bhishma had no such bodily relation. Therefore, the cause of attraction was due to the intimate relation of the soul. Yet, because the relation of the body is very pleasing and natural, the Lord is more pleased when he is addressed as the son of Maharaja Nanda, the son of Yashoda, the lover of Radharani. This affinity by bodily relation with the Lord is another feature of reciprocating loving service with the Lord. Bhishma Deva is conscious of his sweetness, of transcendental humor, and therefore he likes to address the Lord as Vijaya Sakhe, Partha Sakhe, etc. Exactly like Nandanandana or Yashoda Nandana. The best way to establish our relation in transcendental sweetness is to approach him through his recognized devotees. One should not try to establish the relation directly. There must be a medium which is transparent and competent to lead us to the right path. Hare Krishna.
Right. Thank you. One minute. వస్తున్నాను అట్లా లోపలికి రండి ఈ లోపల రండి అంతే Silver Springs Apartments. ఆ లోపలికే రండి బాబు. లోపలికి వచ్చేసి నేను వస్తున్నా కిందికి. ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ. కంటిన్యూ. సంధ్యావత, would you like to read?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, Samyukta Mataji is also there, I think. Okay. Anyway, I'll read it, Prabhuji.
చదివారు మీరు చదవండి.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The personality of Godhead who appears in the mind of the devotee by attentive devotion and meditation and by chanting of the holy name releases the devotee from the bondage of fruitive activities at the time of his quitting the material body. Purport: Yoga means concentration of mind detached from all other subject matter, and actually such concentration is samadhi or 100% engagement in the service of the Lord. And one who concentrates his attention in that manner is called a yogi. Such a yogi devotee of the Lord engages himself 24 hours daily in the service of the Lord, so that his whole attention is engrossed with the thoughts of the Lord in ninefold devotional service, namely hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, praying, becoming a voluntary servant, carrying out orders, establishing a friendly relationship, or offering all that one may possess in the service of the Lord. By such practice of yoga or linking up in the service of the Lord, one is recognized by the Lord himself, as it is explained in the Bhagavad Gita concerning the highest perfectional stage of Samadhi. The Lord calls such a great devotee the best amongst all the yogis. Such a perfect yogi is enabled by the divine grace of the Lord to concentrate his mind upon the Lord with a perfect sense of consciousness, and thus by chanting his holy name before quitting the body, the yogi is at once transferred by the internal energy of the Lord to one of the eternal planets where there is no question of material life and its concomitant factors. In material existence, a living being has to endure the material conditions of threefold miseries, life after life, according to his fruitive work. Such material life is produced by material desires only. Devotional service to the Lord does not kill the natural desires of the living being, but they are applied in the right cause of devotional service. This qualifies the desire to be transferred to the spiritual sky. General Bhishma Deva is referring to a particular type of yoga called Bhakti Yoga, and he was fortunate enough to have the Lord directly in his presence before he quitted his material body. He therefore desired that the Lord stay before his view in the following verses. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Next, Prabhuji. Krishna.
Mataji, can you please?
Yeah. Just a second.
Shall I read that sloka?
Yes.
Also?
Yeah. If you want, you can, Prabhuji. Yeah. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Sadeva Devo Bhagavan Pratikshatam Kalevaram Yavadidam Hinoyaham Prasannaha Sarunalochanollasan Mukam Bhujodhyana Pataschaturbujaha. Translation. May my Lord, who is four-handed and whose beautifully decorated lotus face, with eyes as red as rising sun, is smiling, kindly await me at that moment when I quit this material body. Sound check. Purport. Bhishma Deva knew well that Lord Krishna is the original Narayana. His worshipable deity was four-handed Narayana, but he knew that four-handed Narayana is the plenary expansion of Lord Krishna. Indirectly, he desired Lord Krishna to manifest himself in his four-handed feature of Narayana.
A Vaishnava is always humble in his behavior, although it was it was 10% certain that Bhishmadev was approaching Vaikuntha Dhama just after leaving his material body. Still, as a humble Vaishnava, he desired to see the beautiful face of the Lord. For after quitting the present body, he might not be in a position to see the Lord anymore. A Vaishnava is not puffed up, although the Lord guarantees his pure devotees entrance into his abode. Here Bhishmadeva says, as long as I do not quit this body, this means that the great general would quit the body by his own will. He was not being forced by the laws of nature. He was so powerful that he could stay in his body as long as he desired. He got this benediction from his father. He desired that the Lord stay before him in his 400 form Narayana feature so that he might concentrate upon him and thus be in trance in that meditation. Then his mind might be sanctified with thinking of the Lord. Thus he did not mind wherever he might go. A pure devotee is never a pure devotee is never very anxious to go back home, back to Godhead. He entirely depends on the goodwill of the Lord. He is equally satisfied even if the Lord desires him to go to hell. The only desire that a pure devotee entertains is that he may always be in rapt attention with thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord, regardless. Lotus feet of the Lord, regardless. Bhishmadeva wanted this much only, that his mind be absorbed in thinking of the Lord and that he pass away thus. Now, that is the highest ambition of a pure devotee. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, thank you, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah, Prabhuji is next. Whoever wants to read.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Translation. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaja Yudhishthira, after hearing Bhishmadeva speak in that appealing tone, asked him in the presence of all the great rishis about the essential principle of various religious duties. Purport. Bhishmadeva, speaking in that appealing tone, convinced Maharaja Yudhishthira that he was very soon passing away, and Maharaja Yudhishthira was inspired by Lord Krishna to ask him of the principles of religion. Lord Sri Krishna inspired Maharaja Yudhishthira to ask Bhishmadeva in the presence of many great sages, indicating thereby that the Lord's devotee like Bhishmadeva, although apparently living as a worldly man, is far superior to many great sages, even Vyasadeva. Another point in is that Bhishmadeva at the time was not only lying on the deathbed of arrows, but was greatly aggrieved because of that state. One should not have asked him any question at the time, but Lord Sri Krishna wanted to prove that his pure devotees are always sound in body and mind by dint of spiritual enlightenment. And thus, any circumstances of Lord, a devotee of the Lord is in perfect order to speak of the right way of life. Yudhishthira also preferred to solve this problematic question by asking Bhishmadeva rather than ask anyone else present there who was seemingly more learned than Bhishmadeva. This is all due to the arrangement of great wheel carrier Lord Sri Krishna, who establishes the glories of his devotee. The father likes to see the son become more famous than himself. The Lord declares very emphatically that worship of his devotee is more valuable than the worship of the Lord himself. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Hare Krishna. Yeah, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
ఎవరు లేరు మాతాజీ, మీరే చదవండి.
అయ్యో, అక్కడ ఎవరు లేరా ప్రభుజీ? ఐఎమ్ నాట్ ఏబుల్ టు సీ.
మీరే చదవండి.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Translation. At Maharaj Yudhishthira's inquiry, Bhishmadeva first defined all the classifications of caste and orders of life in terms of the individual qualification. Then he systematically, in twofold divisions, described contraction by detachment and interaction by attachment. Purport. The conception of 4 castes and 4 orders of life as planned by the Lord himself, Bhagavad Gita 4.13, is to accelerate transcendental qualities of the individual person so that he may gradually realize his spiritual identity and thus act according to get free from material bondage or conditional life. In almost all the Puranas, the subject matter is described in the same spirit, and so also in Mahabharata. It is more elaborately described by Bhishma Deva in the Shanti Parva, beginning from the 60th chapter. The Varnashrama Dharma is prescribed for the civilized human being just to train him to successfully terminate human life. Self-realization is distinguished from the life of the lower animals engaged in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. Bhishma Deva advised for all human beings 9 qualifications: not to become angry, not to lie, to equally distribute wealth, to forgive, to beget children only by one's legitimate wife, to be pure in mind and hygienic in body, not to be inimical toward anyone, to be simple, and to support servants or subordinates. One cannot be called a civilized person without acquiring the above mentioned preliminary qualities. Besides this, the Brahmanas the intelligent men, the administrative men, the mercantile community, and the laborer class must acquire special qualities in terms of occupational duties mentioned in all the Vedic scriptures. For the intelligent men, controlling the senses is the most essential qualification. It is the basis of morality. Sex indulgence, even with a legitimate wife, must also be controlled, and thereby family control will automatically follow. An intelligent man abuses his great qualifications if he does not follow the Vedic way of life. This means he must seriously make a study of the Vedic literatures, especially of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. For learning Vedic knowledge, one must approach a person who is 100% engaged in devotional service. He must not do things which are forbidden in the Shastras. A person cannot be a teacher if he drinks or smokes. In the modern system of education, the teacher's academic qualification is taken into consideration without evaluation of his moral life. Therefore, the result of education is misuse of high intelligence in so many ways. The Kshatriya, the member of the administrative class, is especially advised to give charity and not to accept charity in any circumstances. Modern administrators raise subscription for some political functions but never give charity to the citizens in any state function. It is just the reverse in the injunctions of the Shastras. The administrative class must be the administrative class must be well versed in the Shastras, but must not take to the profession of teachers. The administrators should never pretend to become non-violent and thereby go to hell. When Arjuna wanted to become a non-violent coward on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was severely chastised by Sri Krishna. The Lord degraded Arjuna at that time to the status of an uncivilized man for his avowed acceptance of the cult of non-violence. The administrative class must be personally trained in military education. Cowards could not be elevated to the presidential throne by dint of numerical votes only. The monarchs were all chivalrous personalities, and therefore monarchy should be maintained provided the monarch is regularly trained in the occupational duties of a king. In fighting, the king or the president should never return home without being hurt by enemy. The so-called king of today never visits the war field. He is very much expert in artificially encouraging the fighting strength in the hope of false national prestige. As soon as the administrative class is turned into a gang of mercantile and labor men, the whole machinery of government becomes polluted. The Vaishyas, the members of the mercantile communities, are especially advised to protect the cows. Cow protection means increasing milk productions, namely curd and butter. Agriculture and distribution of the foodstuffs are the primary duties of the mercantile community, backed by education in Vedic knowledge and trained to give in charity. As the Kshatriyas were given the charge of the protection of the citizens, Vaishyas were given the charge of the protection of the animals. Animals are never meant to be killed. Killing of animal is a symptom of barbarian society. For a human being, agricultural produce, fruits, milks are sufficient and compatible foodstuffs. The human society should give more attention to animal protection. The productive energy of the laborer is misused when he is occupied by industrial enterprises. Industry of various types cannot produce the essential needs of a man, namely rice, wheat, grain, milk, fruits, and vegetables. The production of machines and machine tools increases the artificial living fashion of a class of vested interest and keep thousands of men in starvation and unrest. This should not be standard of civilization. The Shudra class is less intelligent and should have no independence. They are meant for rendering service to the three higher classes of the society. The Shudra class can attain all comforts of life simply by rendering service to the higher classes. It is especially enjoyed that a Shudra should never have bank money. As soon as the Shudras accumulate wealth, it will be misused for sinful activities in wine, women, and gambling. Wine, women, and gambling indicate that the population is degraded to less than Shudra quality. The higher caste should always look after the maintenance of the Shudras, and they should provide them with old and used garments. A Shudra should not leave his master when the master is old and invalid. The master should keep the servants satisfied in all respects. The Shudra must first of all to be satisfied by sumptuous food and clothing before any sacrifice is performed. In this age, so many functions are held by spending millions, but the poor labor is not sumptuously fed or given charity, clothing, etc. The laborers are thus dissatisfied and so they make agitation.
Hmm?
Varnas also.
The Varnas are so to speak, classifications of different occupations, and ashrama dharma is gradual progress on the path of self-realization. Both are interrelated, and one is dependent on the other. The main purpose of ashrama dharma is to awaken knowledge and detachment. The brahmacharya ashrama is the training ground for the prospective candidates. In this ashrama, it is instructed that this material world is not actually the home of the living being. The conditioned souls under material bondage are prisoners of matter, and therefore, self-realization is the ultimate aim of life. The whole system of ashrama dharma is means to detachment. One who fails to assimilate this spirit of detachment is allowed to enter into family life with the same spirit of detachment. Therefore, one who attains detachment may at once adopt the fourth order, namely renounced, and thus live on charity only, not to accumulate wealth, but just to keep body and soul together for ultimate realization. Household life is for one who is attached, and vanaprastha and sannyasa orders of life are for those who are detached from material life. The brahmacharya ashrama is especially meant for training both the attached and detached. Hare Krishna. So second time అయిపోయిందా మదర్ మళ్ళీ ప్రభు చేస్తా ఇప్పుడు
First time I can.
Okay.
Shall I read?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He then explained by divisions acts of charity, the pragmatic activities of king, and activities for salvation. Then he described the duties of women and devotees both briefly and extensively. Purport. To give charity is one of the householder's main functions, and he should be prepared to give in charity at least 50% of his hard-earned money. A brahmachari, a student, should perform sacrifices. A householder should give charity
and a person in the retired life or in a renounced order should practice the finances and austerities. Those are the general functions of the ashramas, or orders of life of the life on the path of self-realization. In the brahmachari life, the training is sufficiently imparted so that one may understand that the world as a property belongs to the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. No one therefore can claim to be the proprietor of anything in the world. Therefore, in the life of householder, which is sort of license for sex enjoyment, one must give in charity for the service of the Lord. Everyone's energy is generated or borrowed from the reservoir of energy of the Lord. Therefore, the resultant actions of for such energy must be given to the Lord in the shape of transcendental loving service for Him. As the rivers draw water from the sea, through the clouds and again go down to the sea, similarly, our energy is borrowed from the Supreme Source, the Lord's energy, and it must return into the Lord. That is the perfection of our energy. The Lord, therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, 9 chapter 27 sloka says that whatever we do, whatever we undergo as penance, whatever we sacrifice, whatever we eat, or whatever we give in charity must be offered to Him, the Lord. That is the way of utilizing our borrowed energy. When our energy is utilized in that way, our energy is purified from the contamination of material impurities, and thus we become fit for our original nature life of service of the Lord, service to the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, Raj Prabhu, please go ahead.
I read Prabhuji one time. Mataji.
Acha, okay. Yes, Mother, please read again.
Rajadharma is a great science, unlike modern diplomacy for political supremacy. The kings were trained systematically to become munificent and not merely be tax collectors. They were trained to perform different sacrifices only for the prosperity of the subjects. To lead the prajas to the attainment of salvation was a great duty of the king. The father, the spiritual master, and the king are not to become irresponsible in the matter of leading their subjects to the path of ultimate liberation from birth, death, disease, and old age. When these primary duties are properly discharged, there is no need of government of the people by the people. In modern days, the people in general occupy the administration by the strength of manipulated votes, but they are never trained in the primary duties of the king, and that is also not possible for everyone. Under the circumstances, the untrained administrators play havoc to make the subjects happy in all respects. On the other hand, these untrained administrators gradually become rogues and thieves and increase the taxation to finance a top-heavy administration that is useless for all purposes. Actually, the qualified brahmanas are meant to give direction to the kings of proper administration in terms of the scriptures like the Manu Samhita and Dharma Shastra of Parashara. A typical king is the ideal of the people in general, and if the king is pious, religious, chivalrous, and munificent, the citizens generally follow him. Such a king is not a lazy, sensuous person living at the cost of subjects, but alert always to kill thieves and dacoits. The pious kings are not merciful to dacoits and thieves. In the name of nonsensical ahimsa, the thieves and dacoits were punished in an exemplary way so that in the future no one would dare commit such nuisance in an organized form. Such thieves and dacoits were never meant for administration as they are now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, Samyukta.
Yes, Prabhuji. The taxation law was simple. There was no force, no encroachment. The king had a right to take 1/4 of the production made by the subject. The king had a right to claim a fourth of one's allotted wealth. One would never grudge parting with it because, due to the pious king and religious harmony, there was enough natural wealth, namely grains, fruits, flowers, silk, cotton, milk, jewels, minerals, etc. And therefore, no one was materially unhappy. The citizens were rich in agriculture and animal husbandry, and therefore they had enough grains, fruits, and milk without any artificial needs of soaps and toilets, cinemas, and bars. Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Yeah, right.
The king had to see that the reserved energy of humanity was properly utilized. Human energy is meant not exactly for fulfilling animal propensities, but for self-realization. The whole government was specifically designed to fulfill this particular purpose. As such, the king had to select properly the cabinet ministers, but not on the strength of voting background. The ministers, the military commanders, and even the ordinary soldiers were all selected by personal qualification, and the king had to supervise them properly before they were appointed to their respective posts. The king was especially vigilant to see that the tapasvis or persons who sacrificed everything for disseminating spiritual knowledge were never disregarded. The king knew well that the Supreme Personality of Godhead never tolerates any insult to his unalloyed devotees. Such tapasvis were trusted leaders, even of the rogues and thieves, who would never disobey the order of tapasvis. The king would give special protection to illiterates, the helpless, and widows of the state. Defense measures were arranged previous to any attack of the enemies. The taxing process was easy, and it was not meant for squandering, but for strengthening the reserve fund. The soldiers were recruited from all parts of the world, and they were trained for special duties. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes. Yeah, Sandhya Mataji, please read.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
As far as salvation is concerned, one has to conquer the principles of lust, anger, unlawful desires, avarice, and bewilderment. To get freedom from anger, one should learn how to forgive. To be free from unlawful desires, one should not make plans. By spiritual culture, one is able to conquer sleep. By tolerance, only one can conquer desires and avarice. Disturbances from various diseases can be avoided by regulated diets. By self-control, one can be free from false hopes, and money can be saved from avoiding undesirable association. By practice of yoga, one can control hunger and worldliness can be avoided by culturing the knowledge of impermanence. Dizziness can be conquered by raising up, and false arguments can be conquered by factual ascertainment. Talkativeness can be avoided by gravity and silence, and by prowess one can avoid fearfulness. Perfect knowledge can be obtained by self-cultivation. One must be free from lust, avarice, anger, dreaming, etc. to actually attain the path of salvation.
Continue.
Yes, Prabhuji. As far as the women class are concerned, they are accepted as a power of inspiration for men. As such, women are more powerful than men. Mighty Julius Caesar was controlled by a Cleopatra. Such powerful women are controlled by shyness. Therefore, shyness is important for women. Once this control wall is loosened, women can create havoc in society by adultery. Adultery means production of unwanted children, known as Varna Shankara, who disturb the world. The last item taught by Bhishma Deva was the process of pleasing the Lord. We are all eternal servants of the Lord, and when we forget this essential part of our nature, we are put into material conditions of life. The simple process of pleasing the Lord, for the householders especially, is to install the deity of the Lord at home. By concentrating on the deity, one may progressively go on with the daily routine work. Worshipping the deity at home, serving the devotee, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, residing in a holy place, and chanting the holy name of the Lord are all inexpensive items by which one can please the Lord. Thus, the subject matter was explained by the grandfather to his grandchildren.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you.
Worshipping the deity at home, serving the devotee, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, residing in a holy place, chanting the holy name of the Lord are all inexpensive items by which one can please the Lord. Nice. We'll read one more verse and then we'll go to slokas. Yeah. Prabhus. Anybody you can read.
Translation. Then he described the occupational duties of different orders and strategies of life, citing instances from history. For he was himself well acquainted with the truth. Purport. The incidents mentioned in the Vedic literature, such as the Puranas, Mahabharata, Ramayana, are factual historical narrations that took place sometime in the past. Although not in any chronological order, such historical facts, being instructive for ordinary men, were assorted with chronological reference. Besides that, they happen on different planets, nay, in different universes, and thus the description of the narrations is sometimes measured by 3 dimensions. We are simply concerned with the instructive lessons of such incidents. Even though they are not in order by our limited range of understanding, Bhishmadeva described such narrations before Maharaj Yudhishthira in reply to his different questions.
Questions. Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. We'll stop here. Thank you all for reading today. Let us practice some verses. Bhakti Shastri, Bhagavad Gita Unit 3 and embodiment of devotion. Anybody likes to do?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I do?
Yes.
Bhagavad Gita 13.22. Purusha prakrutisto hi bhunte prakriti jan gunan karanam gunasangosya sat asat yoni janmasu. Translation: the living entity in the material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the 3 modes of nature. This is due to his association with material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species. Bhagavad Gita 13.23. Upadrishta Anumanta cha Bhakta Bharta Bhukta Maheshwaraha Paramatmeti Chapyukto Dehesmin Purusha Paraha. Translation: yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the supersoul. Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Mam chayo vyabicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Translation: one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, yet once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Bhagavad Gita 15.7. Mama yamsho jivaloke jivabhuta sanatanaha manasthastani indriyani prakrutistani karshati. Translation: the living entities in this condition world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to condition life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. Bhagavad Gita 15.15. Sarvasya jaham didisannivishtav matta smritirgnanam hapohanam cha vedesha sarve ahameva vedyo vedanta krut veda videva chaham. Translation: I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of Vedas, knower of the Vedas. Bhagavad Gita 18.54. Brahma bhuta prasannatma nasochati na kankshati samastarveshu bhutesu madbhaktim labhate param. Translation: one who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attends pure devotional service unto me. Bhagavad Gita 18.55. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato gnatva vishate tad anantaram. Translation: one can understand me as I am. I am the personality of God. I am the supreme personality of Godhead only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Bhagavad Gita 18.65. Manmanava madhubhaktu madhyajimam namaskuru mam yeveshyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Translation: always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you that because you are my very dear friend. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma suchaha. Translation: abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Prabhuji, nectar of devotion. It's difficult for me, Prabhuji. I just try, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Prabhu. It's okay.
Because I never recite this, Prabhuji.
ఇప్పుడు చేయాలి ఇంకా.
Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11. Anyabhilasita sunyam dana karmati hitam anukullena krishnanu siranam bhaktiru uttama. Translation: when first class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires. Knowledge obtained by monastic philosophy and fruitive action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.12. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tattvatena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti uchyate. Translation: Bhakti or devotional service means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of all senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed from all material designations, and simply by being employed in the service of the Lord, one sense is purified. One senses are purified. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.234. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhavate Indriya Mukti Swayam Eva Purityada. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Navaved Graham Indriyai Shivo Mukke Vada Swayam Eva Sprutyada. Translation: because Krishna's form, qualities, pastime, etc. all are on the absolute platform. Material senses cannot therefore appreciate them. When the conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy name and taste the remnants of the Lord's food, the tongue is purified and one gradually comes to the understand who Krishna really is. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.255. Anasatyasya vishayan yataham upayanti jataha nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. Translation: when one is not attached to anything but at the same time accepts anything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
From last few days, I'm not attending properly, Prabhuji. Sloka, this one. So I'm unable to.
Sloka, August lo move అయింది. August 6th కు ఉంది ఇది. Saturday రోజు, Saturday and Sunday.
August 9th, Prabhuji.
6th and 7th, 6th and 7th.
6th and 7th. Okay.
6th and 7th ఆయన మేబీ సెప్టెంబర్ వరకు కూడా పొడిగిస్తారేమో.
అవ్వకూడదు ప్రభుజీ. ఇది అయిపోతే మన భక్తి శాస్త్రి అయిపోయినట్టే. ఇంకా ఇట్స్ నాట్ గెట్ పోస్ట్ పోన్ అసలు.
అదే అన్నాడు కదా, లాస్ట్ అన్నాడు కదా. మూమెంటం పోయింది అట్లా.
మనం అన్ని రోజులు ప్రాక్టీస్ చేస్తూనే ఉండాల్సి వస్తుంది అప్పుడు.
మంచిదే కదా మాది.
మంచిదే కానీ అంటే ఒక టాస్క్ అయిపోతుంది కదా, లైక్ భక్తి శాస్త్రి ఇస్ డన్ ఫర్.
భక్తి శాస్త్రి యాక్చువల్లీ టెక్నికల్లీ డన్. ఈ శ్లోకాలు ఏం లేదు.
మేబీ కృష్ణ వాంట్స్ us to practice more and
more ఇంపార్టెంట్ వర్సెస్ ఆయన గురించి అన్ని చెప్తున్నాడు కదా మాది. హూ ఈజ్ సూపర్ సోల్, how to engage, how to transcend the modes, and here Mama Vamsa Jiva Loka. I'm seeding further. I'm the living entities is a condition, which are eternal fragmental parts. All are important verses only. Yeah, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Bhaktya Mama Vijanati. Yes. You want to recite Mataji?
I can do it. Prabhu. 13.22 Purusha prakristho hi bhumte prakritijan gunan karanam guna sangosya sadyonis janma. Translation: the living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species. 13.20 उपद्रष्टानुमन्ता च भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरा परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तो देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परा. Translation: yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the supersoul. 14.26 Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Translation: one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. 15.7 ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूता सनातना मनःषष्ठानीन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिस्थानि कर्षति. Translation: the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which includes the mind. 15.15 सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टो मत्तः स्मृतिर्ज्ञानमपोहनं च वेदैश्च सर्वैरहमेव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृद्वेदविदेव चाहम्. Translation: I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. 18.54 Brahmabhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. Translation: one who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. 18.55 भक्त्या मामभिजानाति यावन् यश्चास्मि तत्त्वतः ततो मां तत्त्वतो ज्ञात्वा विशते तत् अनन्तरम्. Translation: one can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. 18.65 मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो मद्याजी मां नमस्कुरु मां विश्यसि सत्यं ते प्रतिजाने प्रियोऽसि मे. Translation: always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. 18.66 सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वां सर्वपापेभ्यो मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुच. Translation: abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Bhakti-rasamrita 1.1.11 अन्याभिलाषिता शून्यं ज्ञानकर्माद्यनावृतम् अनुकूलेन कृष्णानुशीलनं भक्तिरुत्तमा. When first-class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires knowledge obtained by monastic philosophy and fruitive action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. 1.1.12 सर्वोपाधि विनिर्मुक्तं तत्परत्वेन निर्मलं ऋषिकेन ऋषिकेश सेवनं भक्तिरुच्यते. Bhakti or devotional service means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of the senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed from all material designations, and simply by being employed in the service of the Lord, one's senses are purified. 1.2.234 అత ఇది లలిత్ మోహన్ ప్రభు ట్యూన్లో చెప్తాను, ఇది ఒకటే గుర్తుంది. అత శ్రీకృష్ణ నామాది న భవేద్ గ్రాహ్యమింద్రియై సేవోన్ముఖే హి జిహ్వాదౌ స్వయమేవ స్ఫురత్యదా. Because Krishna's form, qualities, pastimes, etc. are all on absolute platform, material senses cannot therefore appreciate them. When a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy name and taste the remnants of the Lord's food, the tongue is purified and gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is. Anasaktasya jnana यथार्हम् उपयुञ्जत निर्बन्ध कृष्ण संबंधे युक्तं वैराग्यमुच्यते. When one is not attached to anything but as at the same time accepts anything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you, Mata. Hare Krishna. Jai. So let us conclude. Tomorrow we'll connect. Okay. Thank you so much. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Srila
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Gaur Hari Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you.